Welcome Facebook and everybody who's watching us. I think we had 1,000 viewers last week, so people are looking for church outside the box, yes? And unity, obviously, is way outside the box. I'm going to ask Theta to come forward and light the candles as we start our unity sense of love today. So the wreath represents unity and eternity. The first candle was for the first week, which was what? Hope and faith. Every year it's the same. Every year Advent is the same. All right, okay. So there'll be a test next week. Last week was peace, right? And so the third candle, the third purple candle, is love, and that's what we're celebrating today. So we celebrate Christmas, which we're going to do here next week on the 22nd. And that was a decision we made as a church. And so maybe next year we're going to have Christmas Eve. We don't know yet. We'll see what the decision is that's made. And so I hope you'll go somewhere if that so moves you. I'll be in Florida. I'll be going to one of the churches in Florida with my family. And so this whole season is about anticipation. That's what Advent means. It means coming. And so what's coming is the realization within us that Christmas is really every day. Each time we decide to change our mind and get ourselves centered in unity and come from that place of love so that we can be love expressing in the world. What I know is every time I'm going to be giving a talk on something, or because Advent is what it is, I've had the opportunity to really work on having hope and faith. And then last week have peace. And then, of course, love has been, as I've been writing this week on that. And when we live our truth, then what happens is our soul will help us to have all of the lessons that we might need. And if you think you're done learning, I'm going to ask you to think again. And maybe call me and we could have a chat about it. Because I don't care how old you are, even Miss Lillian knows at 102 that life continues because we get to continue to learn and to change and to shift. On Monday, I was invited into the town of Bluffton to sit with some of the people who were so affected by this little kid who got his angel wings, Amir, on Saturday after the parade. And how do they deal with a town that's going to be hurting, right? And some of us get attached to the fact that he was only 5. And one of my things that I said to the staff was, don't be attached to the size of the vessel that holds. His life was just lived perfectly. And how do we know? Because it ended. And so he was done. His soul was done teaching us in the physical form. It's still teaching us today. They had a vigil on Thursday, they had visitation on Friday, and his celebration of life was on Saturday. And we're still talking about him. So he continues to teach us. And that's probably the biggest difference between unity and the mainline churches, is that we believe in the soul ongoing, and the physicality happens only when we're here walking around as God expressing. And so I bet you he's up there going, yes, look at that. All that whole town got together. All of those different people that probably never would have spoken are together celebrating. So that's how I spoke to the town on Monday, to say, let's have a shift in our consciousness and go from how it was that maybe he did pass to he passed, now what do we do? And how do we celebrate his life? So in your prayers this season, keep him in mind as one of your newest earth angels. Look for him. He'll be around. You'll see. It might be when you look at a tree differently, or the clouds, or the moon that was bright this week, or the lights that you didn't notice before, and maybe that's just another sign to get in touch with the child within you. Let go all the busyness of our adult life. Get in touch with the childlike nature that you have. And that's what Jesus had asked us to do, not just at Christmas time. This week I also got asked a lot, what does Unity think about Christmas? And how do you handle it? And what do you do? So if I could, I'd have a birthday cake. My children won't allow it. My family would never allow it on the day to celebrate the birthday of the birth within us each time we remember to surrender and to forgive and to love. That allows then the Christ to come through us evermore. And Christ means anointed one. We're all anointed. The moment we arrive on this planet, I think there's a song about that, we are anointed to do the will and the work of God here, expressing as us. And we know that Jesus is about the spark of divinity within us, and that's what we keep talking about, right? And so the lights at this time of year, I hope they help us remember that truth. The sunshine helps. Boy, it wasn't, what day was it? Wednesday? It was really an ugly day, wasn't it? With all that rain, and I thought, come on, sun. I mean, I was all the more grateful when Thursday came around and there was not as much rain. Was honored to sit with Lois this week as she received one of her treatments and to look around as we prayed for all the people in the cancer center. And grateful that she has the choice to choose how it is she's going to deal with this dis-ease, because that's what it is. Knowing the truth of who she is and saying, you know, Reverend Therese, I know I'm here as a teacher. I'm here to teach people. Never asks why. Never asks why. So each year we get to commit and recommit to the nurturing presence that's within us that we celebrate on Christmas Day, knowing that each time we make a decision to play Santa Claus, which is what Theta will do with all of these stuffed animals, right? Because I hope you believe in Santa Claus. I hope you get surprised. I got a gift in the mail. I was really surprised. I love that. I got another gift today, and I said to the person, I'm not going to open it until Christmas Day. So that way I have things to open on Christmas Day, and cards and things like that. So the scripture that I chose for today is from 1 Peter chapter 3, verse 8. Finally, all of you have unity of spirit, sympathy and love for one another, a tender heart, and a humble mind. And so as we listen to the news and all the bantering and every that goes on, right? Get centered in what we know to be the truth and know that we're the ones that make the difference. So imagine every Unity Church right now today making a difference in their communities, which has an effect on people who don't even come to Unity. I know that because I have an effect every time I go into the nail salon, get my hair cut, go to the movie theater, because as I talk to people, people wonder what it is that is, why am I happy? Why am I smiling? What are the reasons why? I always go, well, what's the alternative? You know, I guess we could all be curmudgeons. We could all be Scrooges, right? So the best gift we can give ourselves is to fulfill the possibility of being all that God created us to be. Get out your pens. Let me say it again. I didn't put it on the PowerPoint. The best Christmas gift we can give ourselves is to fulfill the possibility of being all that God created us to be. And that's individually unique to each of us. Thank God, yes? Imagine if we were all the same. Pretty boring, right? So we're talking about the birth of the remembering the truth of who we are, and that's what Advent is about. I believe I met a person, you might know her name. Her name is Anita Morjani, a world-renowned writer of a book that happened after she had a near-death experience. And I got to meet her when I served out in Santa Barbara. And I said to her, so why do you think that you came back? And she said, one reason, to love myself more. I said, really? Out of all the things in the whole wide world? She said, yes. And that's why I'm here, so that I can love myself more, so I can teach everybody else or facilitate or demonstrate that everybody else is supposed to love themselves even more. How interesting. And I had a conversation this week with somebody who said, but it would just be nice if this person could or would or should. And I said, not their job. It's not anybody's job to love you. Everybody breathe. Our job is to love ourselves. Now, as parents, Ty and Diane are teaching their children how to love themselves. Once we're up over 18, our job is to love ourselves as God would love us. And that gets tough, doesn't it, sometimes? But only if this person would love me, then I could be. And so what we know is that leads to crazy making. And so this week I've had the opportunity to look at myself and say, wait a minute, if I thought that person was doing that to me, maybe that's what I do to myself. So if it's anything less than loving, stop and take a moment and be kind to yourself. As we love ourselves, it's easier then to love another. Because why? We're all one. Which sometimes is really hard to understand when we can look around and see so many different faces. And we see separate bodies. But we are one in consciousness. We are one in the expression of God in the world as love. There's a meme out on Facebook that says, the one you've been waiting for is the one in the mirror. So for those of us who are single, right? And I'm single by choice now. Others have a hard time with being single. I'm like, why? Look in the mirror. Love yourself. Have fun with yourself. Take yourself to the movie. That way then, if we're loving and kind to ourselves, we're going to be more attractive to someone else who will be loving and kind to us. Because we know about those relationships that aren't such that way, right? So think about it. If we were all soulmates and we all thought of that, of each other, how different would we interact with each other? In John chapter 17, verse 21, it says, you are in me, and I am in you. So there's no separation. Thich Nhat Hanh says that we are here to awaken from the illusion of our separateness. As you see, I have those things posted all over my house. I have like a weirdo house, with stickums and things, and actually now they're on wood and they look nice on the wall. But the thing is, if we can remember, then we're kinder to ourselves, which makes us kinder then to each other. In Ephesians, it says, therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, and walk in love. God is love. And if you are to be an imitator of God, you are allowing the Christ, remember the anointed one, to take over. And so we start from there. We start from love and go forward. And so what does this mean? And how do we do it, especially at this time of year when we're supposed to? So there's another meme out on Facebook that says, the first Christmas was pretty simple. And it has a creche with a manger, and otherwise there's not much in it. It says, your Christmas can be simple this year too. So think about it. Do you need to be buying what you're buying? Is your presence more of a present than a gift could be? So just think about it as you go along and understand what it is that you might do to add to your chaos instead of peace this Christmas. The number one way, Fillmore says, that we get to be like Jesus, and that's what we say in unity. What is unity? How Jesus lived his life. The number one way is through forgiveness. And so we've talked about hope and faith, and we've talked about peace. We're talking about love, and love always is a part of forgiveness, starting with ourselves. Maybe I should have made 3 more batches of cookies, or maybe I. Stop the maybe I's. We did what we did. We've done the best that we can do each and every day. So be kind to yourself. In forgiveness is the release of what we should do for ourselves, what we expect of others to do, right? So we release the negative judgments, the chatter that goes on in our mind. We release all the resentments that might have been or should have been or could have been in Christmases past, because the gift is the present moment. And that's what love is really all about, staying present, letting go of the chains that bind us. Tradition is great unless it's binding. And so I'm the only one of my sisters that won't be home for Christmas. And it's pretty liberating for me to be with my children instead of going back to what I could have, maybe should have done or would have done back in Chicago for Christmas. Again, my choice. So when we realize we have choices, then we realize, oh, therein lies the peace. Charles Dickens says, to have a heart that never hardens, a temper that never tires, and a touch that never hurts. This is a decision to live a life that's harmless. That's harmless. I was talking to the guard out on the front, and he said, yeah, so we're here, and I said, so what I'm glad for and what I see the blessing in, you get an extra day of work. And he said, you're absolutely right, and I'm grateful. So can we find the blessing in everything? We're united in mind and in heart and in spirit when we want to be. And I invite us to reach out a little bit more these next couple weeks as we go forward. If you haven't heard from somebody, haven't seen them in church, how are they doing? I invite you to help me be my hands and feet as we go into this season. And when you have a minute, maybe reread 1 Corinthians chapter 13, so it can remind you of the spectrum of what love is. It's more than a sentiment. Fillmore says it's a strong and sturdy emotion. When I teach spiritual intelligence, I like to say that it's sloppy, because I love pizza and I love my dog. What? What? How does that work, right? And I love you and I love God, and it gets very confusing. So as a word in the English language, it's pretty sloppy. So get centered in what it means to you as you become loving. Corinthians tells us that it believes in all things, hopes all things, and endures all things. How enduring are we during this season? It's a verb. We've talked about this. It's an action word. It's patient and kind and forbearing, tolerant and understanding, accepting and forgiving. To be truly loving towards all persons, at all times, under all circumstances. At 61, I'm still working on that. Who else is working on it? Be truthful, stay in church. Yes? So if we make love our theme song, my patron saint is Saint Therese of Lisieux, France, and that's what she said. Her whole life and vocation was to love. And she made her transition at 23. I didn't know that when I was that young. And yet, challenges happen, right? So we can then shift back into, which part of my brain am I coming from? What is my thinking? Look at the words that jump out: trust and oneness, acceptance and balance. What does monism mean? Who knows? M-O-N-I-S-M. One great power that we call God in unity. How interesting. As I was looking at that yesterday, I thought, I've never noticed that word in that brain picture before. So it's plastered all over Facebook now this morning so that everybody can get it. So we don't have to create love within ourselves. Why not? It's already there. Hope is in us, faith is in us, peace is in us, love is in us. What we get to do is be a conduit, right? It may be through making the cookies you made this morning. It could be that you came in early when I put out the call. Help! help us set up tables early, right? However it is you want to be a conduit of love this season and allow it to flow through us. So there's a story about a Sunday teacher teaching 5-year-olds and said, next week, all you kids bring in something that you love and let it be green. So get a green color. So the next Sunday, people are, all the little kids are coming in, they've got on green sweaters like Thea's, or they've got a hat, or stuffed animals. And in walks little Johnny with his sister in a green dress. Do we know that love exists within us enough that we're able then to give it without us and from us? And so Johnny walks in. Imagine, can't you hear all the 5-year-olds? What are you doing? Why'd you bring your sister? What are you bringing your sister for? I can hear my grandchildren right now. What is she doing here? Right? Well, because for Johnny, love was his little sister in a green dress. So what we know, love is not about becoming the right person. I'm sorry, I just said that wrong. Love is not about finding the right person. Love is about becoming the right person. So we don't have to look outside of ourselves. We get to call it forth from within us. One of the greatest things Fillmore says that I love, there is nothing you or I have ever done, ever said, ever thought that can destroy the love that God has for us. So when I work with people in recovery, that's their first thing that they'll say to me is, but I did. That was yesterday. Today's a new day. We're the ones that keep score. God doesn't have a pad and a pen that keeps score. So if you're keeping score about yourself or someone else, I invite you to throw out the score pad. Actually throw out the whole pencil set and everything else with it and start anew again today. We're loved always and in all ways. We're a blessing always and in all ways. I had some ladies this week when I was getting my nails done ask, what church is that? Unity? Where do you meet? And I said, we meet at the congregation Beth Yam, and they all happen to go to the synagogue that's in Bluffton. And so we started talking about that and how great it is that everybody's sharing churches. They're sharing a Christian church, we're sharing a Jewish synagogue. How fabulous is it? And how much we have in common. And that's when we started talking about the season of light. And that's what our job is for these next, how many more days do we have? 10 more days, 9.5 if we count, Christmas Eve coming in before the big guy gets here, right? So the real church, the real synagogue is us expressing. It's nothing to do with any walls anywhere. And this week is the Advent week of love, based on hope and faith, on the wings of peace, so that we can be love in this world. So I invite you to close your outer eyes now. And know that each time we make the decision to move from our head to our heart, we get to be in meditation. We get to take a moment to be real. We get to decide, is it time to move up our dimmer switch a little bit? Is our light bright enough? How luminous are you? Is the path that you walk illuminated by your presence? I affirm that these next 2 weeks, as the last 2 weeks have been, the presence of all that is great and good in you, born anew again. That the glow of your Christ Spirit is so blinding that your friends have to wear their sunglasses when they're with you. That you'll spend time with people who are your cheerleaders. when you can't quite get the cheer out of your own body. Choose to surround yourself with those who know just how bright your light is. And I affirm that each of us is divine love expressing into the world, touching everything that we come in contact with. It's a big job, and I know we can do it. We've been doing it, we'll continue to do it. And today I hope that you'll rise up into the awareness of your majesty, of your brilliance and your magnificence and your beauty, all that you are, because you're you. Knowing that you matter not only to us here at Unity, but to all those whose lives you touch. Born in the image and after the likeness of all that is great and good, what we call God in unity. We can never be anything less. I invite you to awaken the awareness of your magnificence this week. As we come into the next week of Advent, joy. So we get to be filled with faith and hope and on the wings of peace, expressing love and being joy in the world. I affirm right here and right now for each of us that we are because God is. And that self-mastery with a capital S is part of our love expressing in the world. Each time we get back in right relation with God. Because God is, we are. And so let that thought of brilliance and magnificence and love and beauty and majesty surround you as we go into a time of silence full of gratitude for all of our blessings, seen and unseen, in the silence. Silently to yourself declare that God's wisdom in, through, and as you is your guide. And that the law of harmony will be lived out as you. Steadfast and strong, we call forth all of our powers to be who we've come here to be. Allowing faith and hope to guide us, and peace to fill us, so that we can be peaceful. And that the very concept of us being born in the image and after the likeness of God, which means we're love, affirms the truth of who we are. You expressing as love. And in this moment, we bring into manifestation all that we know to be true about ourselves. Constant and unfailing is the love of God in, through, and as each of us. And so it is, and so we let it be. We pray this in the name and after the nature and under the authority of the living, loving presence that is you and that is me. And as we stay in this contemplative time, I ask you to open your eyes gently, and I invite you at home to say our love offering blessing with us, or what I call now our practicing generosity blessing. Together, please. Divine love through me blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. And so it is, and so we let it be. And we prepare our